Game Freak always goes quite to traditional order with their Pokemon games, first releasing 2 main series games, then maybe a year or two either release remakes or make a third version of the main games of that generation. However, with Sword and Shield, they've gone with something a little bit different. They went for DLC. But was that the right choice, or should they gone with their traditional ideas? Well, this is what I am going to figure out today in my Pokemon Sword and Shield Isle of Armour review. The story starts you off with you getting mixed up with a trainer who is meant to be starting at the Master Dojo. When you get to the dojo yourself, you start to do 3 different trials. So basically you need to clear all those trials and start training up a Pokemon known as Kubfu, and the Pokemon that they've been advertising for the whole Isle of Armour expansion, if you are not aware. So that is the main gist of the story. It's nothing reward-winning or anything like that, but it is a very quite light-hearted story that I quite liked, and it's not something that we've had in a very long time, because there is nothing like, I don't know, this massive Pokemon planning to destroy this country or this planet or anything like that. No, it's very, very basic. But I do quite like it because of that, so I'm happy. And the characters are definitely some of the highlights of the story. Mustard is quite funny, and as well his wife Honey is also really funny. I do also really like the rivals. Clara, because I played Pokemon Sword, she was really she was quite really evil, but in a lot of a way. And she was quite funny, and also you can see the darkness side of her and stuff. She was very two-faced, but I quite like her for it. Avery, I don't know as well, but I have watched a video and I can tell he is quite similar to Clara, because they are the version different, so depending if you have Sword or Shields. But I think you will know what I know about Avery. He does seem to be just as charming and as funny and as quite, not as two-faced, but a bit more out there, as he has a bit of a dark side about him. But they obviously, like everything in these kinds of things, they will change over throughout the story, and it's quite impressive how well paced the story is, despite only being 2 hours long. So I am pretty impressed by it. So yeah, the characters are great, and it's not long, but it is definitely something that I'm glad that they've done quite well. I would have though slightly preferred if it was slightly longer. The island itself is like the wild area. It is a little open world sandbox area where there's a lot of things happening with Pokemon flying all over the place, and you have a 3D camera. But it works better in my opinion. The reason for this is that the world doesn't seem as disjointed and all over the place. Like, for example, in the wild area, they did have a little sandy, deserty area. They have a little bit of an little island in the corner. They have loads of other, mostly the same environments, but not completely. However, in the Isle of Armour, the world seems like it would naturally flow into that area from just tons of little caves, just connecting all the bits with a hill that goes into a grassy land, and there's a little bit of a forest in an area. I don't know, it just seems like it would naturally go together in a real world, while the wild area just doesn't as well. So even though I do really like the wild area, the Isle of Armour has took that really awesome basic concept and improved and fixed all the issues that I had with it. One thing that I think a lot of people are happy about the Isle of Armour is seeing some of their older Pokemon that were cut from Sword and Shield originally return and be catchable in the Isle of Armour. You do not need the Pokemon Sword and Shield Isle of Armour to get the Pokemon, however. You can also transfer them from older games using Pokemon Home. However, if you do want to catch them in-game, you will need the Isle of Armour. So it depends how much you really want to experience those Pokemon, but I'm pretty happy that they've returned, and actually in some ways, I'm sort of glad that they cut them originally, because it makes them more exciting to see which ones have returned and which have not. So, I can see why people are still a bit upset about it, but in some ways I think it was probably the right thing to do. Anyway, there are also some other things you can do during or after you've completed the story. One of those things is collecting 151 Diglett. If you're wondering what that is, it's very similar to the Zygarde calls and Pokemon Sun and Moon, where you just go round collecting them. Luckily, they have made it a bit more easier with them saying in which area how many you've collected, and by just going to the signpost, or when you collect them, that they will say in this area there's still about either 5 more, 3 more, 1 more, 0 more, and stuff. It is a lot more easier, and I think though that is a good thing, because they were ridiculously hard in the older games, and they were just not fun to collect. However, I feel with this change they've made them a lot more fun to collect, and I feel a bit more of a fair challenge to do. This next feature is the G Max Soup feature. This allows the Pokemon that have potential to Gigantamax to Gigantamax. And how it works is simply you need to collect some G Max mushrooms and as ingredients for the soup, and put in the soup, and the Pokemon that can Gigantamax will Gigantamax, except for Urshifu that will need also some honey, and Melmetal apparently can't at the moment. I personally feel a bit mixed feelings about this feature, because in some ways I think it's great to allow Pokemon that you like using be able to Gigantamax, and it will become more harder to get them in dens over time, so I think it's a good thing. However, it does make me feel that the Gigantamax Pokemon you caught in the dens feel a little less special, because they're not like special Pokemon anymore. They're just normal Pokemon that can Gigantamax. While before, they felt like you got this ultimate form that you can only do with teamwork of people. So I feel a bit mixed about the feelings about it. But I think overall, over time, it is a better thing to do it like this. Another thing in the Isle of Armour you can do is collect Watts for honey to make improvements in the Master Dojo, like add vending machines, a hairdresser, just loads of random things and stuff in there. None of it's like necessary, but there are some really good items you can get in the vending machines that are probably really useful for competitive players, and it is just quite fun just seeing your dojo being spanned out. Though I wouldn't recommend necessarily going for everything, because the last item you can get is the Honey's Rare trainer card, and that's around like 3 million or something. It's a lot, basically, but it's debatable if it's really worth it or not. However, I'm going for it, so I haven't got it yet, but if you want to go for it, it's got some probably useful information and interesting, but it's probably not for necessarily the more casual player for Pokemon, because you probably just get a bit bored from it. But it's a fun little thing you can get if you really want to get everything. This last thing is unlocked when you've completed the Isle of Armour, but it's restricted battles. They are like different special battles, a bit like what you can get from like Battle Frontiers and stuff, and their like little gimmick is that you can only use one type of Pokemon, and they also can't be the same Pokemon. Also, apparently they're not allowed to be legendaries either. I've found that out. But yes, and they're not my main excitement, though they are quite fun. And I know a lot of other people prefer them a lot more than I do. Personally, they're not what I like, but then again, I'm not this massive fan of hundreds and fifties of battles in one row, though actually, to be fair, it is only 5, so it's a lot better than a lot of them. However, I will admit that I think it would have been helpfuler if you could possibly access the PC to select which Pokemon, because restricted battles are very restrictive. So if you obviously after you choosing a type, it's kind of like you have to also go through all the other little things and stuff, and how instead of like it would have just been easier to go through into the PC, I feel, but and especially because it is not holding anyone up or anything. So I think they could have done that a little bit easier, but overall they're quite fun, and even though they're maybe not what I look forward to in a Pokemon game, I can see why other people would say it's one of the biggest highlights of the Isle of Armour. Okay, so I have been very positive about the Isle of Armour, but not everything is perfect here. And some of my slightly not complaints, but I do find the music forgettable. I don't know why. I have listened to it a few times, and I do remember it for a bit, and actually there are some tracks that I did quite like, though I just can't remember them. It's weird, and, you know, I'm not saying that all music in Pokemon is perfect, but a lot of the Pokemon music, I find some of the most memorable music in existence, especially that original bike theme. However, for whatever reason, I don't know, it just doesn't stick in my head at all. And so, of course, you may disagree with that because, you know, music is subjective, but yeah, I just don't find it very memorable, honestly. I also think that the Pokemon following around, okay, I love the Pokemon following around, but there needs to be a lot more polish in it. Okay, like, yes, I know that for some of these Pokemon it might be the case, like, the Pokemon possibly, don't, like, fit in that environment and stuff, the physics just don't work. Like, D-Link, I think, because it only shows up ever on straight bits, they never really tested it going on, like, a bit more of a curvy area, so it kind of sticks up in the air. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. But then there's also, like, Magikarp just doesn't go swimming, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. However, there are some really good ones, and some really interesting choices, like the, I think Barnacle line. They can go in the water and stuff fine, and I'm quite astonished that that's all good, and also some other ice Pokemon can go in the water. So I don't get it, why some Pokemon seem to be really polished when it comes to the walking around and stuff, but then other Pokemon just seem to think, I don't care, I don't want to work with physics or anything, so it's just a bit all over the place when it comes to which Pokemon actually can go in the environment and stuff. But I do think over time that they can hopefully fix some of these issues with some of the Pokemon. They may have even done it, because I think there's been an update recently, so they may have fixed some of the Pokemon and make them work in the world. And also I do know that, I'm not going to say if I do know that there's been a bit of a leak about the Crown Tundra, about if they're going to have Pokemon flying around or not. I'm not going to say, because obviously people may not want to know, but even so, it does prove that there's going to need to be there will be an update, and so that can also be another point where they could possibly get Pokemon working better following around. So I am much happier that Pokemon are following around, and I much prefer them to be not very polished than not having it at all, but it is something that some people may be put off by the fact, and it is something that is an issue that does need to be addressed. But overall, I am happy that it is here. P.S. Why can't the Pokemon follow you around in the wild area or in towns or anything? That makes even less sense. I know there was a lot of people came up with these reasons why they wouldn't, like, work originally, because of, like, too many Pokemon on the screen at once or something. But now that the fact is that they have programmed Pokemon following around you and stuff is possible. Why aren't they working in other places in Galar? That doesn't makes even less sense, and that's just annoying to me. I think one of the issues that is not an issue really, but I think got some people a bit excited for what actually it is, was the level scaling in the Isle of Armour, because from what IGN said was that the highest leveled Pokemon that you have on your party, the Pokemon will level scale to that Pokemon. In reality, that is not the case. It's something to do with your badges, I think. But there's obviously, that doesn't really work very well when some people have level 100 Pokemon when you might only be in your 60s, 50s when you end playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, so it didn't work very well. But I think because IGN kind of, somewhere in that interview thing, they got mixed up with level scaling and something, it kind of got people excited, but to be honest, it isn't very good. I do hope that Game Freak do go and try and do level scaling in the future that works better, that is maybe to do with the level of your Pokemon, to help with the balancing of Pokemon games. I think that would work well. However, sadly, it didn't work out this time. So in my conclusion is, if you are someone who buys every Pokemon game like me, yeah, you're gonna probably buy this anyway. However, if you're someone who doesn't do that and wants to think about this logically, okay, so if you liked Pokemon Sword and Shield, but you wanted a bit more, well, this will definitely provide you with that. If you like the wild area with Sword and Shield, but you want, or you liked the concept of the wild area, but you felt that it was a bit bland, this would probably also help with filling that issue, and it does a very good job, because it does a really good job with that. However, if you do not like Pokemon Sword and Shield, I don't think this is going to change your mind at all with your opinions. I think this would just be, well, it'll just be an added something, but you probably will never touch it. So, yeah, I don't think that will fulfill it. So, that's my conclusion anyway. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope this was what you felt. And do you think I'm right about all of this, or do you think I'm a bit off? Just tell me in the comments if the comments will allow me to, you to write something in there. It might not, we'll see. So, anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.